Hello, everyone! For over 30 years, Johnny Carson was the man who made America laugh before bedtime. Charming, quick-witted, and untouchable. But when the king of late night passed away, what happened next stunned the world. Hidden behind the gates of his Malibu estate was a locked garage no one had entered for years. And when it was finally opened, what they discovered inside wasn't just a collection of cars. It was a vault of secrets, memories, and confessions that would forever change how the world remembered Johnny Carson. On January 23, 2005, the world lost an icon. Johnny Carson, the undisputed king of late-night television, passed away at the age of 79 from complications of emphysema. His health had been declining for years, but the news of his death still sent shockwaves through the nation. Television networks filled the air with tributes. Friends, comedians, and former guests spoke through tears, remembering his sharp humor and his gift for connection. For 30 years, from behind the desk of The Tonight Show, Carson had made people laugh, think, and forget their troubles. But as the applause faded, whispers began to spread that somewhere in his Malibu home were secrets he had never shared. His estate on the cliffs of Point Dume in Malibu, California, was a masterpiece. Built in 1984, it cost nearly $10 million, a staggering sum at the time. But for Carson, it wasn't about luxury, it was about escape. Designed by architect Ed Niles, the home was a stunning blend of glass and wood, filled with natural light that poured through 30-foot ceilings. The ocean stretched endlessly below. Koi ponds shimmered in the sun, and exotic birds filled an aviary with color and song. Every detail spoke of beauty and control, two things Johnny prized above all. Yet those who knew him said that even in paradise, he carried an air of loneliness. When the executors of Johnny Carson's estate began sorting through his Malibu property after his death, they expected the usual: awards, photographs, and handwritten notes from decades on The Tonight Show. But the real mystery began when they reached the garage. Behind a heavy metal door, untouched for years, lay the secrets he had kept from the world. As the door creaked open, a shaft of light spilled across polished chrome. Dust hung thick in the air. What they found wasn't just a car collection. It was a museum of his private life. At the far end sat a 1939 Chrysler Royal, once owned by Carson's father, the same car in which Johnny learned to drive. It was more than metal, it was memory. He later left it to Jay Leno, passing the torch from one late-night king to another. Nearby shimmered a stainless steel 1981 DeLorean DMC-12, the futuristic car Carson invested $500,000 in. Ironically, it once trapped him inside after an electrical failure, a mishap he later turned into one of his famous jokes. But now, that same car felt symbolic. Doors that wouldn't open, secrets that refused to let go. Close by sat his 1992 Chevrolet Corvette, his final car, his last taste of freedom. And tucked in the corner, a rare 1966 Ghia 450 SS, an Italian masterpiece that hinted at his quiet love for the exotic and the extraordinary. Among the cars, the executors found something far more personal. Boxes labeled miscellaneous, locked cabinets, and a folder wedged behind a tool rack. Inside was a single yellowed envelope, sealed and marked in Johnny's handwriting. The name on it wasn't one anyone recognized. When they opened it, the room fell silent. Inside was a letter that revealed a side of Johnny Carson the world had never seen. In 1972, Carson married again, this time to Joanna Holland. For 13 years, they lived in the spotlight together, until one evening on their anniversary, Joanna stunned him by announcing she had filed for divorce. Carson, always composed, was blindsided. His final marriage came in 1987 to Alexis Maas, who stayed by his side until his death. Friends said Alexis brought calm to his later years, a kind of peace he had long searched for. But the real heartbreak of Johnny Carson's life wasn't in his marriages. It was in his relationship with his children. His middle son, Rick Carson, suffered from mental health struggles and spent time in hospitals. Johnny admitted he had not been the father he wished he'd been, his career often keeping him far from home. When Rick died in a car accident in 1991 at just 39, Johnny was shattered. For one rare moment, the world saw his mask fall away. On air, he spoke softly about his son, his voice cracking, the pain unmistakable. The letter found in the garage was addressed to Rick. In it, Carson wrote of regret, of wishing he had been present, of hoping his son knew he was loved despite the distance. The words were raw, unpolished, and achingly human. The man who once ruled late-night television revealed himself not as a star, but as a father haunted by what he couldn't fix. Behind the success and glamour, Johnny Carson fought darker battles. Biographers like Bill Zamy and Mike Thomas wrote of a man who could be dazzling on stage yet distant, even cruel in private. Alcohol often fueled his worst moments. Joanne Copeland recalled how a single drink could turn him from charming to cold. His temper strained his marriages and friendships alike. In 1982, the world saw a glimpse of that side when Carson was arrested for drunk driving near Beverly Hills. The story splashed across newspapers, shocking fans who believed he was untouchable. His professional life wasn't free of tension either. Carson's rivalry with Wayne Newton became infamous after he mocked Newton on air. The feud turned bitter and lasted for years. His friendship with Joan Rivers also ended in silence after she launched her own talk show. A decision Carson took as betrayal. He never spoke to her again. To those who knew him, his silence was the ultimate punishment. When once asked in a Playboy interview why he avoided discussing his personal life, Carson answered simply, "I live my life, especially my personal life, strictly for myself." It was the statement of a man who had mastered distance. He could charm millions, but struggled to let anyone truly in. Yet, long before the fame, Johnny Carson was just a shy boy from Corning, Iowa. Born in 1925 during the Great Depression, he found solace in magic tricks, performing for neighbors and learning the art of timing. After serving in the U.S. Navy during World War II, he pursued a career in radio, where his calm delivery and humor quickly made him a favorite. By the 1950s, as television began to rise, Carson saw where the future was heading. He hosted Who Do You Trust? Before taking the seat that would define his life. The Tonight Show in 1962. For 30 years, Carson ruled late-night television. His monologues were sharp but never cruel. His interviews effortless. He made the art of conversation look easy. When he finally retired in 1992, more than 50 million people tuned in to say goodbye, the largest audience in the show's history. Over his lifetime, he won 6 Emmy Awards, a Peabody, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and the Kennedy Center Honors. But his greatest legacy was the generation he inspired. Jay Leno, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, and Jimmy Fallon all called him the gold standard, the man who defined how late night should feel. Among the boxes in that Malibu garage, archivists found more than cars and letters. They discovered notes and monologues that never aired. Scribbles, where Carson reflected on fame, loneliness, and the cost of laughter. He wrote about how applause could be both a blessing and a burden, how fame could fill a room yet leave a man empty. For the first time, the mask slipped entirely. In the end, Johnny Carson's story wasn't just about laughter. It was about the silence that followed. His garage, hidden away in Malibu, became more than a collection of cars. It was a reflection of the man behind the curtain, a legend adored by millions, yet haunted by his own shadows. The lights of The Tonight Show have long faded, but inside that garage, his spirit still lingers, mysterious, untold, unforgettable. What did Johnny Carson truly hide behind those locked doors? Stay with us, because what lies inside may just change how you remember him forever. Thanks for watching.